Yee! Hey guys, Tiffany here, and I'm the owner of Tiffany Gordon Cosplay LLC, which is a company that focuses on costume and prop fabrication as well as education. And I'm excited to bring you another cosplay tutorial specifically for Nasaka and her rifle. And this is all made out of foam and CPVC pipe as well as a fabric strap, and it is pretty simple to make, and I'm excited to explain it to you. As well as the best part about it is it comes apart into two pieces for transportation. So let's go over how I made it. But before we begin, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And here are all of the tools and materials that I used for making the rifle, and I'll have links to all of this in the description, including the foam. As well as you can find my blueprint for this available on my website, TiffanyGordonCosplay.com. And for me, I was still practicing with my Glowforge, which is a laser cutter, and I used this to cut out a few of the pieces more for the butt of the rifle, but by no means, you do not need a laser cutter to cut out any part of this. You can cut everything out by hand using either an X-Acto knife or a box cutter, as well as a cutting mat. And I'm going to be focusing more on the butt of the rifle right now, and for those parts I ended up applying contact cement glue to the pieces. Again, you're going to want to use your respirator because you don't want to breathe in those fumes. Wait for the glue to fully dry, and then we can start attaching the pieces. And for the butt of the rifle, the detail parts, I did these out of 4mm foam, cutting the shape first, followed by the circle and the rainbow arch, and gluing those together. And then for getting the thickness of the rifle, I ended up cutting this part out 3 times out of 10mm foam. Then once both of those parts were glued, I could glue the two pieces together now to finish off the butt of the details. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, this rifle I made come apart into 2 pieces, and I pretty much just separated it in the middle section of the gun. And so this is the front half of the rifle, and again I stacked 3 pieces of 10mm foam together, and these were just rectangle strips that I cut. And once that was done, I wanted to make this more round, and instead of just going straight to my sanding bench, I wanted to remove a little bit of our sharp edges. So I got a box cutter and kind of carved away all of our edges. And then after that, went to my sanding bench and with a Dremel and a sanding drum rounded all of the edges until I was happy with the results. And for me, because this is in 2 pieces, I'm going to be using a piece of CPVC pipe to connect the 2 pieces together. And in order to do that, I need to have a spot in the foam for the pipe to insert. So I used Costools hole drill to basically cut my hole in the foam, and which was the same size of the pipe that I was inserting. And for this, it was 1/2 inch CPVC pipe. And I did this onto both sides of our rifle, so the butt side and the barrel side. And then I got some pipe cutters and cut the pipe to the desired length that I wanted. And for attaching it, I just used my glue gun as well as Surebonder hot glue, inserted the glue gun into the piece, and then put the glue in and shoved the tube in until it hardened, and that was kind of my method for that. As well as for this rifle, there are 2 barrels that stick out of the tip, and I ended up cutting the length that I wanted for those pipes and did the same method of cutting the hole out with Costools hole drill, and then inserting the hot glue and the pipe together to finish out that part. And next we're going to talk about the handle part, the grip, and this I also cut out of 10mm foam 3 times and stacked them together. After that, I rounded them with my sanding drum and then attached them to the correct spot underneath the rifle. And the next detail parts for this, where there are kind of strips that go around, where in reality these would be like metal bracket kind of adhesive parts holding the wood together and everything. And I ended up getting one of my tape measures and measuring around the barrel so that way I could get the precise length that I needed, and cut rectangle pieces out with an X-Acto knife out of 4mm foam, applied my contact cement glue to the parts, and then attached the pieces. Reminder, you will want to add a little bit of extra foam to this just so that way you have extra material just in case. And for the detail part of the grip and the trigger, there's this little metal bracket that goes around. This would be the part where you would insert your ammo into and whatnot. And for this, I traced the shape of the blueprint twice, and then I ended up cutting it out, and then I cut a rectangle shape that would be the thickness of the top half of the foam, and applied my glue and slowly attached the part to make a kind of box-like shape, which I then attached again with contact cement glue. And for each of those strips that we wrapped around the parts of the barrel, there are detail parts of bolts. And for this, I just cut out circles, and then I sliced the circles in half and then just kind of glued them together. All of this was out of 2mm foam that I attached to each of the parts. And for the final detail part was it looks kind of like it was supposed to be a sight, or it's supposed to be the bolt action portion of this rifle. But for that part, I ended up cutting a circle out of 10mm foam and attaching a round foam dowel to the bottom portion and put it onto the top of the rifle to finish out those components. And to make this even more functional, and so that way later on we can have a strap, I ended up finding some brass jump rings that I had laying around the house, and then just kind of put a rectangle strip of 2mm foam through it and glued it to the bottom portion of the rifle to complete the foam fabrication part. Now on to painting. And here are all of the tools and materials that I used for painting the rifle. And a reminder, you don't need an airbrush gun or a compressor to paint this. You can always do it by hand. And the first part for doing this is you're going to want to prime your piece. And for me, for priming any of my foam pieces, I like to use Plastidip, which is a rubber spray paint. And you're going to want to apply this heavily onto all sides of your piece, waiting 45 minutes in between each coat to fully dry. And I did a total of 3 coats. And then for painting, and I'm going to be using paint that was provided by Kratex Colors, as well as my airbrush gun and compressor provided by Iwata Airbrush. And the first color we're going to be using is Jet Black, applying it to all of the rifle. Once that coat of paint was dry, it is on to making things shiny. And I'm going to be using Metallic Charcoal, applying it to all of the spots that I wanted to be metal. And then next we're going to be doing a mixture of metallic charcoal as well as jet black, and we're going to be applying it all of the silver surfaces. And while the paint is still wet, we're going to grab a paper towel and wipe it away. This is going to leave black out all of the creases around all of the edges and give it a natural kind of weathering look onto these pieces. And then when that is dry, you're going to want to mask off all of those silver areas. And for this, we're going to be using Scotch brand masking tape. First, apply the tape onto your leg and then apply it onto your painted pieces. This will make sure that the tape residue does not stay on your piece when you remove it later, as well as it won't be too sticky to peel up your paint or Plastidip. Then back to painting. And this part we're going to be focusing on is the handle grip part, and we're going to be using the color Crimson. And then again, we're going to be doing another mixture of crimson and jet black, applying it to the surface, and while it's still wet, wiping away with a paper towel, just to give us that weathering and natural shading look. And once again, mask that part off with masking tape. And the next coat that we're going to be using is going to be the base of our wood color, and this one's going to be Titan Buff, which is going to be more of a white cream color. Apply this to the rest of the rifle and wait for it to fully dry. And the very last color that we're going to be using is actually from Kratex Colors Candy 2.0 line, and it is called Dirt Track Brown. And this color is going to be more of an ink-like type of paint, and it's going to be really watery and liquidy. And what you're going to want to do is put this in a container and you're gonna dip a dry paintbrush in it, one with very big bristles, and you're gonna wipe this paint back and forth in one direction, which is going to leave you paint lines with the bristles on the brush, giving you a look of wood onto the surface. Now, you're gonna want to do this once, wait for it to dry, and then do it a few more times afterwards. The more you build up, the darker it's gonna get, as well as the more kind of wood grain you're going to get, until you have the desired look. And once that's dry, you're going to want to remove all of your masking tape. And the final and most important step to painting for this piece is going to be sealing it. And we're going to be using Createx Colors Uvialous Satin. You'll want to apply this very lightly onto the full surface, as if you apply it too heavy, all of that candy line color will start to drip, as well as if you don't use this to seal your piece, all of that candy line can also come off with water. So protect your piece, use the sealer, and congratulations, your piece is painted. But wait, we have to be extra and add a strap. So let's do that. And I had some leftover green fabric that I used for the bag for my Nasaka costume, and I ended up just folding the edges and doing a zigzag stitch, so it was one long rectangle strap. And then I didn't want to quite sew it together anymore, so I ended up getting some contact cement glue and did it at just the ends. And once it was dry, I pulled the strap through our jump ring and then just closed the contact cement glue part of the fabric onto itself, and that finished the rifle. So yeah. At the beginning of the video, this rifle comes apart into two pieces for transportation, and I basically hid it behind this silver part, and you can kind of see the pipe there, and there's the hole there, and it's pretty simple to assemble. All you do is align the two pieces and kind of just squiggle it back and forth until it is in place to finish. And that, guys, is how I made Nasaka's rifle from Nasaka of the Valley of the Wind. And I hope this helped you for making your very own version or something similar. And if so, let me know in the comments, as well as don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. A big thank you to all of my company sponsors here on YouTube, as well as all of my YouTube members, specifically those legendary members who financially help to support me so I can continue doing this as my full-time job and main source of income, bringing you more cosplay tutorials. And I'll see you for our next one. Much love, guys.